Hey, how you doing today? I am Tequila Coleman. In today's video, I have a prophetic word I'm going to share with you. The Lord woke me up this morning, 3 o'clock this morning. Wouldn't allow me to go back to sleep until I got this word. And so let me just start off by saying this word isn't for everyone. This word is specifically for those of you who are dealing with a prodigal spouse who has that running man spirit in them. Your prodigal is running from their calling. Your prodigal is running from the instructions of the Lord. Your prodigal heard the Lord tell them that you are their spouse, but they running. Your prodigal know that they are supposed to come into agreement with this marriage, but they are running. And so this word is for you. Okay. So like I said, the Lord woke me up this morning, and I found myself in the book of Jonah. So if you haven't already read the book of Jonah, I highly recommend you read it for yourself. But in Jonah, it's a short book. It only got 4 chapters. Very short, straight to the point, but it's very powerful. And so in the first chapter of Jonah, we learn how Jonah, he got a calling on his life. He decided to run. He decided he didn't want to do it, so he went in the opposite of the direction the Lord was sending him in. And he got on this boat. And while he was on the boat sleeping, Jonah chapter 1, verse 4, it say, Then the Lord sent a great wind on the sea, and such a violent storm arose that the ship threatened to break up, right? And so while this ship is about to break up, the people on the ship, they're like, what is going on? They checking amongst themselves. They wake up Jonah. They like, call on your God. And so long story short, I'm paraphrasing here. Jonah went on ahead and told them, this storm is breaking out because of me. Okay. Basically, he was telling them, I'm running from the Lord. Okay. I'm being disobedient to this calling on my life here. And so they asked, they was like, well, how do we get the storm to stop? And Jonah said, throw me overboard. Okay. And this is where the Lord began to speak to me. When I read, throw me overboard, let me tell you something. Wherever your prodigal spouse is going, whoever they are turning to, whoever they, are putting before the Lord, whoever they are putting before you, God's chosen one, whatever they put before their purpose, God is causing these very people to throw your spouse overboard. To throw overboard means to reject, means to discard, okay, means to get rid of someone. All right. To drop and abandon. So this is what's happening. Your prodigal spouse, these people they surrounded themselves with, they are now being rejected by these same people. They are now being abandoned by these same people. These same people are washing their hands with your prodigal spouse, okay? And this is the Lord doing because it's time for them to step into this calling. It's time for them to step into this marriage, okay? It's time. And so God is like, I'm tired of this. It's time out. I'm about to go ahead and allow these very people you choosing to put before God, I'm going to have them reject you. I'm going to have them to drop you and abandon you just so I can get your attention. And so while these people are throwing your spouse overboard, God is providing the fish for your prodigal spouse, okay? And so the fish, like in real life, in your prodigal spouse, it could look like your spouse is just in isolation right now. Everyone is gone. Like all hell is breaking loose in your prodigal spouse life, right? In the fish is where your spouse, they are in great distress. Okay, they are hurting. They are going through suffering. They're going through pain. They don't understand what's going on. They might even be having their little temper tantrums, during this time, and they also, because they crying out to the Lord, but the Lord is silent. And in the Lord's silent, your prodigal spouse is assuming God has abandoned them too, but that's not the case. God's just silent right now, okay? Because He's allowing them to go through this motion. He's allowing them to, reap, what they have sown. He's allowing them to feel this so that they learn from it. And so, again, they in great distress. They also it's this pain that they are in, okay? They starting to think, they're gonna die, right? And even though I'm saying this, do not reach out, okay? They have to go through this. Your prodigal has to go through this. So they feeling like they hoping, praying, God, don't let me die. You know, they probably crying out to the Lord, saying they sorry. They probably even repenting, okay? Their life is going down. Okay. I talked about this in a previous video that prodigals will lose everything. Okay. They're gonna lose, you know, the very thing they put before the Lord. And so while all of these things are taking place, God is getting your prodigal spouse attention. And right here, it's saying Jonah chapter 2, let's start at verse 8. It's now your prodigal spouse is getting revelation. Jonah chapter 2, verse 8. Those who cling to worthless idols forfeit the grace that could be there. So this is where Jonah, because this is Jonah's prayer, he's beginning to realize that, you know, these were idols he was putting before God. And you know, he's losing God's grace, you know, by putting these idols before the Lord. And this is the same revelation your spouse is getting as well. It goes on to say in verse 9, but I, with a song of thanksgiving. So they are in the fish, they are thanking God because now they're getting the revelation. They are growing, they are maturing, they are learning the lesson. So now they like, thank you, Jesus. Okay. It's saying verse 9, but I, with a song of thanksgiving, will sacrifice to you. What I have vowed, I will make good. Let me tell you something. Let me read the whole thing. I'm getting excited. It says, salvation comes from the Lord, and the Lord commanded the fish, and it vomited Jonah onto dry land. Let me tell you something. It wasn't until Jonah vowed. He vowed. He said, what I have vowed, I will make good. So he was basically saying, God, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be obedient. He made up his mind while he was in the fish. I'm going to be obedient to what you're telling me to do, Lord. That was a vow. This is how powerful vows are. It wasn't until Jonah vowed in his heart and told God, I'm going to be obedient to this. I'm going to go ahead and go. That's when in verse 10, and the Lord commanded the fish and it vomited Jonah onto dry land. Jonah chapter 3, verse 1. Then the word of the Lord came to Jonah a second time. Go to the great city of Nineveh and proclaim to it the message I give you. Verse 3. Jonah obeyed the word of the Lord and went to Nineveh. Let me tell you something. Okay. Right now, your prodigal, like I said, your prodigal spouse, they are in the fish and God is wearing them out. Okay. God is allowing them to sit in their mess. He is allowing the same people who they placed before God to reject them and leave their life. Okay. Your prodigals are losing. Okay. They're idols. They losing things. Okay. You know, and until they vow in their heart, I will be obedient to your instructions, Lord, they will have no rest. So when they vow, when they make a decision in their heart, I'm going to be obedient. That's when God is going to allow them to, he's going to allow that fish to vomit them out. And when God release your spouse, they're going to come back being obedient to the instructions of the Lord. That is the word of the Lord. I am Tequila Coleman. I'll talk to you all real soon. Take care.